we say leadership development at Career Thrivers, it is inclusive of what you're doing from a diversity, equity, and inclusion standpoint. So here are a couple of things to think about and to consider as you, either as a learning and development professional or as a people leader, a leader of leaders, or an organizational leader at your company. The first thing we want to keep in mind is we want to have culturally relevant curriculum, right? So this means going beyond translating the content in different languages, right, for your global workforce, right? What it means instead is that you truly understand the nuances of different cultures so that your content, your skill development is meeting the needs of those cultures. This is so critical. And one of the ways to think about this is to include in your instructional design the group, the audience that you are designing the content and curriculum for, even if you are using an outsourced partner, right? So we follow pretty closely to the ADDIE model at Career Thrivers. It's an instructional design approach to ensure that we're thinking about the audience member, right? The N of one, to develop a very tailored learning roadmap to meet that particular skill. So you want to take that kind of approach. You might even think about creating a center of excellence within your organization to ensure that when there is a new training or a new workshop or a new skill development program that you're launching, that you have a subset of leaders there that can help you really to think through and ensure that the content is culturally relevant, right? The second thing that you want to think about is tailoring the design. So cultural relevance hits on the fact that you want to make sure that the content is meeting the needs of the people. When you think about tailoring, though, you want to think more broadly. So you want to think about things like, who is the instructor, right? The content has been designed, but who's delivering the message? What are the tools that you're using to deliver the message? What is the container that this training or leadership development program is being delivered in? And then also, who are the partners? So one thing that we do at Career Thrivers to help with the tailored approach around leadership development is we like to include business leaders in the delivery of the instructional design. So corporations will bring us in to help to create a curriculum, but then we say, hey, let's be partners in how this is delivered, whether that's through a traditional train the trainer type of model, or if our team is delivering it, we say, hey, let's make sure that we have talking points for a senior leader so that this message is also being delivered by people and leaders that your teammates are seeing within your organizations every day. It's so, so critical. Another thing to continue with the tailored approach is to think about, how do you deliver the same core framework, right? So let's take, for example, what we see as one of the biggest missed opportunities within the leadership development space for organizations, and that's taking your highest performer, right? So that individual contributor that, if it's sales, is at the top of the ranking report quarter over quarter, year after year, and then saying, hey, that person, their next level is to lead a team. And the gap in that sometimes is that they haven't received the leadership development to understand how to bring the best out of other people, right? They know how to be a high performer. They know what it means to perform and get results, but getting results for yourself and getting results out of people is a completely different skill set.
Hiring slow and firing fast, but you're right. You do have that. And I believe we even give language to it. Like, I want to be empathetic and I want to be understanding and I want to give this person grace and space. And then another 90 days goes by and the performance is the same or it dips. And as the leader, you're like, I should have made the decision that I know I should have made in Q2. Now it's Q4. So yeah, that's great advice.
And I talk about this in the book. Part of your job as a leader is to be very definitive around what success looks like. Mm-hmm. And when you are definitive around what success looks like, now that gives you the latitude. When the person is not delivering that, now you can go to them and you can say, listen, Danielle, I told you that success looked like A, B, C, D, and E, and you've given me A and B. How can I help you? What else do you need in order to give me C, D, and E? Or do you need resources? Should we redefine the timeline? What am I missing? Because I need you to give me A, B, C, D, and E in order for you to be successful. If I don't get that, then I can only assume that either you don't want to deliver that, or you can't deliver that, or there's someplace else that where you can be in your best and highest use, and it's not on my team. Either way, my job is to help you get there if it's not here. So let's go back, see what you can do. If you got everything you need, I'll expect to see it. And if I don't, then we'll just have that conversation. No shame in that game. Now, when you have to have that conversation with Danielle and you say, I got A and B again. All right, let's talk about where you'd like to go. Because it's not here. We talked about that. We know that. So how can I help you get wherever that is? Because it's not here. When you fail to remove a bad leader, you hold the rest of the organization hostage. So you have to be able to make that shift quickly from being an outstanding individual contributor to now being the one in charge. You are it.
I think thriving used to mean being able to have my time back, right? Because as being in academia and as a full-time professor, even on the weekends, I had to check my email because a student might have an issue. And so I felt like my time wasn't my own. And I think even when you're in like a partnership, sometimes it can feel like your needs are being put above somebody else's, or somebody else's needs, are being put above your own needs.
Sure.
So it used to be being able to have my time back. But to me now, thriving means it doesn't feel like I'm thriving if everyone around me is not. So I feel like being able to see the people around me being able to thrive, right? In whatever ways that looks like for them, being free to show up as who they are. And if I can play whatever role I can in that and being instrumental in that, whether it's like amplifying somebody's voice or having a conversation about why something was problematic or wasn't problematic, I think that is what thriving really means to me.
Coaching is not mentorship, right? It's also not training, but it is a process that helps to guide someone towards self-discovery and improvement. So think of it as showing the path rather than leading the way, right? That's how coaching shows up. And this is important to understand because usually coaching gets a bad rap, or it's on one or two ends of the spectrum. So it either has a bad rap because we think about coaching in the context of being on a performance improvement plan. The talent needs to be coached up, so they need a coach, right? So that's how coaching gets a negative connotation. Or coaching has an exclusive context and understanding because it's only reserved for executive level leaders, right? Similar to my experience. So why is coaching even important? Why should you, perhaps as a leader, care about coaching? What can it do for you? So a couple of things to consider. One, coaching provides a very tailored and individual growth plan or path. So one of the things that I really love about coaching is that it gives you that kind of focused opportunity to get guidance, right? And to think more broadly and more deeply about those next steps. And believe it or not, what we've seen at Career Thrivers is that coaching significantly improves performance, right? So the numbers don't lie. When we see engagement skyrocket in terms of those employee engagement numbers in surveys, right? Oftentimes it speaks to the fact that when you invest in someone, right, then they in turn invest back into the organization. Whether you're a leader or an individual contributor, I can't stress enough the game-changing power of a strong coaching culture.
Yeah.
Talk to us, unpack a little bit about the process of going from big vision to actual steps. Like break that down for us, because we talked about the vision setting in the room. Now you're holding leaders accountable and you have the support from your team to help push that forward. How do you get to that?
Yeah, it's not easy, right? So I might have something in my head, but I can't always communicate that perfectly. I don't always have the time to do that. So what I found I needed in order for me to properly execute the vision, I needed trust. I needed relationships. I needed legs and arms and hands and also minds, right, to poke holes. And that's what you want from inclusion. You want to have a great idea, but you want a team or a group of people to make it even better. You want to get to the solution that works for most, not all, because with diversity, there is no one size fits all, as you know. But you want it to land with the group. And so with my team, they were very integral. And they still are. I might have a crazy idea. I'm like, y'all, I'm crazy. Hey, I'm thinking about this. And they're like, maybe not that way. Try it this way. And I'm like, great. right? So we essentially got together, we took our framework, and then we poked holes. Where does it make sense? Where does it not make sense? Then we pulled people from the business. We pulled our employee resource group leaders. I see one of them in the audience today. And we said, does this make sense? What are we missing? And we got feedback like, this isn't strong enough. Your words on this paper are great, but you have these commitments, but it doesn't say anything about the leaders. So we changed our commitments to say our leaders will focus on this. And so that was another example of testing it, right? And then after that, we essentially said, okay, now we need to go build relationships with people so that they can see what I see, so that they can trust me, right? Some of them are blind because they don't know how. Others have their own opinions or ideas because it's rooted in their values. Yeah. So how do I help them see that their values aren't wrong? My values are not right, but we need to do this together. So we essentially built relationships. We talked to our leaders. We talk to them about why it matters. We gave them safe spaces to have conversations and ask questions and say, Ebonee, what's the difference between Black and African American? I don't know. What's this pronoun thing, right? I don't know. And we did that without judgment, which then built relationships. It built trust. And now I don't have to explain what free to be means. I've got a whole army of people that are out there talking about free to be and diversity, equity, and inclusion at Bridgestone. And it feels pretty great to set the vision and let it go.
So what would you say for people who are saying, yeah, I want to, like, that's my goal, I'm striving for that, and that might involve for them coming into a role where they're leading people, where either they have direct reports or they have, it might be a body of people like with you at the church who are looking to them for direction, looking to them for guidance, looking to them to make decisions on their behalf. What advice would you share for aspiring leaders?
For aspiring leaders, I would say, to be the best leader that you can be. And it takes a lot of sacrifice for you to be that leader. It takes a lot of denial for you to be the leader that God is calling you to be. And so when we have those big challenges, a big responsibility, then it calls for us to pray more. Mm-hmm. God, help me. I stand in your need that I may give you the glory in my life and that I may be a good person, a good example, that I would cause no one to stumble. Mm-hmm. I don't want no one to stumble over me. And I want my life, the life I live, I want the life I live to speak for me. No doubt about it. Mm-hmm. Whose I am. Mm-hmm. Because God has been good to me. Now, you don't want me to show God sometime, but I can't help it. Because that's what's in, it's gonna come out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the spirit. That's the spirit of flowing.